Welcome to Midnight Mule FPL. I'm Midnight Mule and this is the video for double game week 33 where we look at the popular players, the once popular players who may still be in your team and what I think of them. And this is the 5% series, the idea being if you only bought players that I'm showing you, you'll probably finish in the top 5% globally, which means you'll do alright in your mini leagues. You're not going to win the whole thing, but you'll do alright. Now this is an exciting time of the year, there's 5 game weeks left. And there's a whole different variety of chips that you may have left. So as we go through the players, I'll try and remember to say points about if you've got this chip, maybe this. If you've got that chip, maybe the other. The video last game week, I went through some chip strategies, so I won't go over that again. All right, let's have a look at what happened in game week 32, and then we'll look at game week 33 players. Starting with the goalkeepers, Martinez managed 6 points. Pope 15, well done if you had him. Pickford 9. For the defenders, Livramento 8, Kirkes 7. 8 Nori 14, very nice if you had him. Virgil van Dijk 9, Burn 7, Konza 7. Mikolenko 6. For the midfielders, Murphy 19, Sarr 7, Salah 6, Rogers 6, Eze 6. Semenyo 10, Luis Diaz 9, Palmer 4. And that's it for the midfielders. For the forwards, we have João Pedro 13, Isak 11, Visser 9, Marmoush 7, Watkins 7, Kunis 7, and that's all. We're now going to look at the players for double game week 33, and there are 4 teams that are doubling, but those 4, of course, blank next game week. So hopefully you've got in mind what you're doing with your chips, and you know how you're going to navigate this. I've seen plenty of managers that have neither the wild card nor the free hit left, but they should still be able to navigate these 2 game weeks okay. Especially if you consider, in my mind, the players from Villa and Palace aren't especially worth loading up on. I definitely wouldn't be taking hits to get any players from those 2 teams if you have no chips left. Okay, starting with the goalkeepers. So Raya, I think, is going to be the most popular goalkeeper among engaged managers this coming game week. He's got 2 nice fixtures, reasonable chance of 2 clean sheets, certainly at least 1 clean sheet. But he is quite expensive. He just went up last night, 5.6 million. He blanks next week, but you don't need to worry about that too much. So if you're wildcarding this game week and you don't have your free hit, if you can afford Raya, you'd simply buy Raya and probably Areola, who at least plays. He will have a chance of getting a point next game week, maybe 2 points. But Raya is quite expensive, possibly the best keeper to get. Certainly long term. If you're going to buy wildcard now, just keep him for the season. He's a good choice. There is, however, one other keeper that's worth considering, which I'm trying to remember to tell you about. So Sales, 5.1 million. He's a solid pick. If you've got him and you're not wildcarding, he's absolutely fine to keep. Reasonable chance of clean sheets at different times between now and the end of the season. If I was wildcarding, I probably wouldn't be buying him, but he's absolutely fine to have. And he's going to be less than half as owned as Raya. And the numbers in red are how many points they count against you if that player gets 6 points and you don't own the player. So, for example, if you don't own Raya and he gets a clean sheet and gets 6 points, that's like you get minus 3.2. So that's how much damage they're going to do to you. So the number in red, if you don't own that player, that's an indication of how much damage they could be doing to you. So the ones with low numbers you don't want to worry about. So Henderson has got a double game week. He got a low score last game week with a double. He may get something against Bournemouth. Against Arsenal, I'd expect him to get between 1 and 3 points because he could get some save points, but he'll almost certainly let in some goals there. Bournemouth, there's a chance at home of a clean sheet there. Personally, if I was wildcarding, I probably wouldn't buy Henderson. If I was free hitting and you needed the money, you could do, but Raya would be the preferred choice. Martinez has also got a double game week. If you're free hitting this game week, he's right. If you're wildcarding, you're then stuck with him for the season, which is all right. But for 5 million, I'd rather pay the 0.1 more for the rest of the season and have Sales. But Martinez all right. And if you want the fun of having a double game week player, that's fine. But they're at home to Newcastle, and Newcastle score for fun, and then they're away to Man City. There's a reasonable chance Villa are not going to be getting a clean sheet this game week. But Martinez is a fun player to watch on telly. He likes to wind people up. And then Flecken, very lowly owned. He's not going to hurt you if he does well. And the second page of keepers, we have Pickford. Now, the Everton fixtures from game week 35 are nice. But this game week they got Man City. Next game week they got Chelsea. So if you're wild carding, you could buy Pickford and then either Henderson or Areola, who we'll see in a minute. So if you were wild carding in 2 weeks' time, I think Pickford would definitely be the keeper to get. If you're wild carding now, you may well want the fun of the double game week. And you could, of course, get Raya and Pickford. But then you've got a lot of money tied up with keepers that maybe you'd rather spend the money elsewhere. And then Pope, he did very well last game week. Wouldn't expect a clean sheet against away to Villa, but it's possible. Home to Ipswich next game week. So people on free hit next game week, Pope's got a good chance of being their goalkeeper of choice. But then away to Brighton, home to Chelsea, maybe not clean sheets there. 4.9 million. I probably wouldn't be buying him on a wild card or a free hit this game week. But if you've got him and you're keeping him, that's absolutely fine. Now, Areola, he's currently the first choice keeper for West Ham. He's only 4.2 million. This game week, they're at home to Southampton. Now, Southampton, they're already relegated. They struggle to score, but they do tend to score more often than not. But at only 4.2 million, you could risk, if money's tight, on a wild card, getting Pickford and Areola and simply playing Areola this game week. And then Ward represents only 4 million keeper, albeit he's 3.9 now. It just sits on your bench, doesn't play. And the same with Fabianski. For defenders, Gvardiol is, I think, going to be the most highly owned defender, and he's fine to be keeping for the season. Not playing next game week, but this game week, Everton and Arsenal, and he's got a good chance of getting either bonus points or attacking returns, and occasionally a clean sheet. If he does well and you don't own him, he's going to really hurt your rank. So if you're wild carding or free hitting, you definitely want to try and get in Gvardiol. Now, Muniz, I'd be slightly less frightened about. He is highly owned, so if he does well, he is going to hurt you. But home to Bournemouth, away to Arsenal, if he got 7 or 8 points this game week in that double, I think that would be a good return for him. He may well end up with 3 or 4. He got -1 last game week, and that was in a double game week. Now, if you're free hitting, it's fine to get in Munoz. He's quite nice and cheap. Wildcarding, you could do. If you're just trying to protect your rank or you're just trying to play safe, Munoz is okay to get. I'm not yet. I've got Munoz at the moment, but if I play a chip this week, I don't know if I'm going to keep him. So Saliba, very expensive, 6.5 million, but a nice double game week. If all defenders were the same price, everyone would have Saliba probably. Arsenal are a very, very good defence. So these 3 defenders on the page at the moment are likely to be the 3 most played this coming game week. If any of them do well and you don't own them, that is going to hurt your rank. And so Milenkovic now half as popular as the rest. Forest do have 1 or 2 nice fixtures coming up, but this game week away to Spurs, maybe nothing special. If you're free hitting, definitely don't get Milenkovic. If you're wild carding, you could get him thinking you're going to play him in the future, but 5.1 is a fair bit of money. And then Kirkes is a fine player. If you're not playing any chips, he's fine to have in your team. No need to worry about him. If you're free hitting, you wouldn't get him. If you're wild carding, probably wouldn't get him. So I'm introducing Timber this game week because he's growing in popularity and a lot of managers on chips will be getting him. Slight worry about what his minutes are going to be if other defenders are going to come back from injury, etc. But he's probably okay for this coming game week. If you can afford Saliba's the better bet. If you want to get both, that's fine. But Timber's in here because he's only 5.7 million. He's going to help you a bit. I've not decided yet if I'm playing a chip, and if I am, I've not yet decided if I'm going to get Timber. But if you want to get him, that's okay. And then Livramento, obviously very popular from last game week because he had a double. Way to Villa this week, not so good. Next game week, home to Ipswich. So some people may be buying him next game week if they're playing the free hit chip. Nobody should be buying Livramento this week. Second page of defenders, Virgil van Dijk, solid player. Will get some clean sheets, chance of attacking return. Away to Leicester this game week. Now, Leicester scored 2 goals away from home last game week against Brighton, which surprised everyone because it's the first time they've ever scored. So there's a chance Leicester are going to score this coming game week. He's very expensive, 6.6. Absolutely wouldn't go buying him because he's too much money. However, if you've got him and you want to keep him, that is absolutely fine. Okay, Burn, don't go buying him But if you've got him and you're not playing a chip, he's all right to keep. Away to Villa, probably won't get anything, but he's going to be a nice player to have next game week. So Aït-Nouri is a good player away to Man United, so I wouldn't expect anything this game week. May get an attacking return, I guess. But next game week, he's at home to Leicester. So a lot of managers that wildcard or free hit next game week are probably going to get Aït-Nouri. And toward the end of the season, last couple of game weeks, they do have some nice fixtures. He's only 4.8 million. So if I was wildcarding this game week, I'd probably be tempted to have Aït-Nouri, but he would probably be on my bench this game week. But he's a fine player to have. If I could have Aït-Nouri or Burn, I would probably go Aït-Nouri now. I said that because they're a similar price. Konate's fine, reasonable chance of getting clean sheets. I wouldn't go buying him, but if you've got him and you're keeping him, that's fine. If you're playing a chip this game week, I wouldn't be getting him. So Robinson, once very popular, less popular now. If he does well, he's not really going to hurt your rank. But he's an all right player, and if you've got him and you have to keep him, that is not a problem. If you ever have to play him, that's not a problem. There's always a chance of attacking return and a slight chance of a clean sheet. If I was wildcarding this game week, I wouldn't be buying him as a long-term investment. I'd be buying Aït-Nouri instead. But he's okay, but don't go out your way to get him, absolutely not. Nico Williams, nice and cheap, 4.5 million. There will be some clean sheets between now and the end of the season for Forest, but away to Spurs this game week. If you're wildcarding, you could get him and have him on your bench just because he's nice and cheap. But if you've got him, that's fine. I wouldn't go using a transfer on him, though. Now, Konza, he's got a double game week this week. And although I think there's a reasonable chance Villa are not going to keep a clean sheet, he is only 4.4 million. So if you do buy him in, you've got the fun of another double game week player. And then at 4.4, if he just sits on your bench the rest of the season, that doesn't really matter. And now for the defenders that are not going to be hurting your rank this game week, but were once popular. Mykolenko. So if you were wildcarding and you're short of money, he's all right to get because Everton do have some nice fixtures coming up, but he'll be sitting on your bench next couple of game weeks. 4.3 million does release some cash. But only if you're wildcarding. I wouldn't use a transfer to get in Mykolenko this week. Mazraoui, 4.2 million, nice and cheap, sitting on your bench most of the time, but if you had to play him, that's okay. I don't even know if Greaves is playing anymore. Howard Bellis, 4 million, probably won't get you anything. Well, Fast, 3.9. So all of these are just bench fodder. The only one I would consider getting of these, if I was wildcarding, would be Mykolenko to free up some cash. I wouldn't be spending a transfer on any of these, though. For the midfielders, Salah is likely to be the most popular midfielder still this game week. And I've seen online some people are actually considering captaining him. Now, earlier in the season, away to Leicester, that would seem reasonable, even though it's a single game week. But recently, he's not been as good. So if you're wildcarding and you can get Salah in, he's absolutely worth having because if he does well and you don't have him, he's going to really hurt your rank. But I can understand some managers may be selling him to try and get in some other expensive midfielders. But there is a risk involved in that because he's so highly owned. So Saka, he's going to be more than half the managers are going to be owning him that are engaged. If Saka does well and you don't own him, that is going to really hurt your rank. Away to Ipswich and home to Palace, the expectations online are that he's not going to get 90 minutes in either game. Quite possibly not start both, may start one of them. However, he doesn't need a lot of time to cause damage. So if you're free hitting or wildcarding and you can get Saka, he's probably worth getting. I'm going to say he is worth getting, but not at the expense of the rest of your team is awful. But if you can get him without causing problems, that's all right. So Murphy, he's a good player, been ticking along very nicely recently. You wouldn't be getting him on a free hit. On a wild card, if you're not free hitting next game week, you may get him. But after Ipswich next game week, people will probably be less bothered about Newcastle. But he is only 5.2 million, so it does release some nice cash. But this game week, for managers that keep him, for most of them, he's going to be on their bench. So Sarr, I reckon maybe half the managers, engaged managers, are going to be owning Sarr. So if he does really well this game week, and you don't own him, that is going to hurt your rank. However, he does blank next game week, and Palace the last couple of games have been very poor. They've just really struggled. So if you don't have Sarr, I wouldn't panic about it too much because I'm not sure he's going to do too well, but he may do, and he's got two chances to do well. I personally would definitely not be taking a hit to get Sarr in. If you're free hitting and you want him because he's a doubler, that's fine. If you're wildcarding, just be aware you are going to kind of be left with him, and you may be able to get a different combination of midfielders that are going to be better than that. So Rodgers, he's been consistently quite good all season. He does seem to play a lot. So the expectation is he is going to get both games against Newcastle and against Man City. A reasonable chance of an attacking return, but he's only 5.7 million and he's going to be in a lot of people's teams. So Mbeumo, he's one of these players that ticks along nicely and just keeps getting points more often than not, it seems. He's not massively owned now because people are scrambling to find space in their midfield to get double game week players in. But if you've got him and you need to keep him, that is absolutely fine. And in the near future, it may well be managers be scrambling to get him back in. So just don't worry about having Mbeumo. If you have Mbeumo and you have to play him, that's fine. You may be okay. Eze, another Palace player, lower owned than Sarr. So if you have neither Sarr and Eze and they both get 10 points, Sarr's going to cause you more damage than Eze will. Eze seemed really off the boil the last couple of games. So I absolutely wouldn't be taking a hit to get an Eze. If you're free hitting and you want him, that's fine. If you're wild carding and then free hitting next week, that's okay. Long term, you may not care for him. It may be that Palace are just going to be rubbish between now and the end of the season. Could be wrong. They did have two very difficult fixtures last game week, to be fair. Away to Man City and away to Newcastle. Maybe home to Bournemouth. They're going to make a real effort to turn things around. So he's all right, 6.8 million. Sarr, 5.8 million, of course, is a million cheaper and more popular. So if you're struggling for money, you're better off getting Sarr than Eze because there's much of a muchness and Sarr is higher owned. So he's going to hurt your rank more if you have him. On this page here, Salah's quite important this game week, as is Saka. Palmer was once owned by nearly everyone and their dog. Now he's down to about, I reckon, 10% ownership amongst engaged managers. So if he does well, he's not really going to be hurting your rank. But Fulham, he could be getting something there. In the next game week at home to Everton, he could get something there. However, there are double game week midfielders that are likely to outscore him this game week. So plenty of managers will be selling Palmer to get in either Saka or possibly De Bruyne. So I'm introducing De Bruyne. So although De Bruyne and Palmer at time of recording have got similar ownership amongst engaged managers, De Bruyne is probably going to be bought in a fair bit before the deadline. Not massively, nowhere near as much as Saka, but a fair bit. Now, some people have been nervous about De Bruyne because he has his minutes managed, etc., blah, blah, blah. But that's because of European fixtures. They're out of Europe. He has 5 games left of Man City in the Premier League. Pep absolutely loves him. Personally, I think if he's fit, he plays. And if he wants to play, he plays. So I'm expecting good minutes from him, assuming he stays fit. So if you're free hitting or you're wild carding and you want to get him in, that's fine. He may do very well. But if you want to get him but you can't get him in, don't worry about it too much because unless he gets a massive score, he's not going to hurt your rank. But he is going to be a lot of fun probably to own. Would I do Palmer to De Bruyne for free? Possibly, as long as I could get out 11 players next game week when it blanks. If you're free hitting next game week, then that's a nice move to do, Palmer to De Bruyne. If you can only do Palmer to De Bruyne or Palmer to Saka, then Palmer to Saka is the safer move. But I think Palmer to De Bruyne is a little bit more fun. So Luis Diaz, still a good player. He's been good in the system for weeks, and he just keeps ticking along, keeps getting attacking returns more often than not. So if you've kept him, and I know someone who's following the system that has kept him for weeks, well done to you. Now, I've looked at various strategies this game week for my team to bring in Luis Diaz away to Leicester, and I would really like to have him. But the trouble is there are so many midfielders I want this game week, I probably can't get him. But if you've got him, he's fine to get. If I had Diaz, there's no way I'd be selling him this game week for example, an Aston Villa midfielder or a Crystal Palace midfielder. I'd rather be keeping Luis Diaz. Bowen, again, ticks along nicely at home to Southampton this game week. Absolutely, I think, worth having. I wouldn't be selling Bowen for one of the Crystal Palace midfielders or for an Aston Villa midfielder this game week. If you've got him, he's fine to keep. Now, if you're free hitting or wildcarding, it's fine to ignore those two and just have a lot of fun and get good players who are going to be good for this coming game week, especially if you're free hitting. But Bowen and Luis Diaz are nice players. They just tick along. So Fernandes, for the first time for ages, I've not made him green. We're getting near the end of the season. He's a very, very good player playing in a very, very bad team. There are just so many other players that you'd rather have this game week. It'd be fine to sell Fernandes to a whole load of other midfielders that you could have fun with this coming game week. If I was wildcarding or free hitting, I wouldn't be getting Fernandes. But if you've got him and you want to keep him, that's fine. He's not high enough owned to hurt your rank, though, if he does well. Semenyo, nice and cheap, only 5.7 million. He's quite lowly owned, but he's fine to have. You'd expect him to get some decent attacking returns between now and the end of season. Definitely wouldn't get him on a free hit. If you've got him, he's fine to keep. If you're wildcarding and you want him for a long-term strategy, that's okay. I'd possibly go elsewhere, but he's all right. And now for the midfielders that are really not going to hurt your rank. Enzo, if he got 60 points, that's like -1 against you if you don't own him. But he's nice and cheap. He can sit on your bench, 4.7 million. He's all right. I mean, he plays. He's all right and he's nice and cheap. But I wouldn't go buying him unless you're buying him in order to save money because you need it elsewhere. Kluivert, we're taking out the system. We just don't know what's going on with him and his injury. Which I was going to take Dango out. But with Kluivert out, Dango's minutes are slightly better. So I absolutely would not go buying Dango. If you've got him, you want to sell him, that's fine. But if you end up having to keep him, that's all right as well. Gordon, don't go buying Gordon. If you've got him and you want to keep him, that's fine. He's probably going to play this coming game week, I'd guess, against Villa. And then at home to Ipswich next game week, that might be quite nice. But if you really wanted him for that, you would buy him next game week. But even then, there's probably other Newcastle players you may rather have. And then Dibbling, good player, but in a relegated team, but he's bench fodder. If you're wildcarding, you could get Dibbling just to be freeing up some money. So Isak, at time of recording, amongst engaged managers, I believe he's still the most popular forward. Now, a good number of those managers will be benching him this game week away to Villa. Not because that's a bad fixture, but simply because they want to be playing lots of double game week players. But next game week, he's at home to Ipswich. So unless you're free hitting next game week, I would suggest you keep Isak. He's worth having. Newcastle really want to get a Champions League place. They're going to absolutely play their best 11 every game between now and the end of the season. Isak could still be getting some decent points. I know he's not been quite as good recently, but I personally think he's worth having, even if you have to bench in this game week. So Marmoush is growing in popularity, and by the deadline, I suspect he will be more popular than Isak. He's probably going to be the most captained as well. And of course, when someone's captained, their points are doubles. And some people may be triple captaining this game week if they're playing the triple captain chip. So if he gets 10 points this game week, you don't own him, that would probably be at least 16 points against you, which is a huge swing. So if you can get to Marmoush, he's almost certainly worth having just to protect your rank. And then if he does well, everyone's going to do well. It won't make much difference. But if you don't own him and he does well, that's going to really hurt you. Of course, if you don't own him and he does bad, that's really good for you because everyone else has lost a player. So Mateta, still very, very popular because he had a double game week last week where he got a 1 and a 1, and he's got a double this game week. He may get something against Bournemouth. If there's a penalty against Arsenal, he's on the pitch, of course he's going to take it because as he missed the last one. I definitely, personally, would not be taking hits to bring him in. Personally, I wouldn't sell Isak this week to get Mateta, but no doubt some managers will do that. But he is popular, and if he does well and you don't own him, he is going to hurt your rank. So Watkins, good player, but he keeps coming off the bench. But when he comes off the bench, he does tend to score points. But 8.9 million is a lot of money. So I think if you're free hitting, or my voice going there, if you're free hitting or you're wild carding, the teams I've looked at, it's quite difficult to get in Watkins and make the rest of your team okay. But if you want to get him, that's all right. But he's not going to hurt your rank too bad if you don't own him. So I don't really think you need to worry about him at all. Chris Woods, not been so great recently. He is a good player. Between now and the end of the season, he's probably going to do all right. I wouldn't be getting him on a wild card. Definitely would be getting on a free hit. If you want to sell Chris Wood for like Marmoush, that's fine. Even for Mateta, I know he's more expensive. That's possibly all right. That's an iffy move. You'd have a bit of fun doing that move, I guess. But Chris Wood is a good player. Should get good points between now and the end of the season. Visser is a good player and he ticks along quite nicely. If I could have Wood or Visser between now and the end of the season, I would definitely be going Visser. If you're wildcarding this game week and you're playing 5 midfielders and 2 forwards, and this is your 3rd forward as a bit of a hold for a future strategy, that's okay as well. If I had Visser and no wildcard left, I'd be very reluctant to sell him this game week. And João Pedro, he's nice and cheap. If he was always starting and getting good minutes, he would be worth having. Only 5.6 million between now and the end of the season. He has a chance of doing well, depending on his minutes. Now, because he's so cheap, he's kind of worth having, but you wouldn't bring him in on a free hit. On a wild card, you'd only bring him in, really, if you needed to free up some money. If you could afford Visser or João Pedro, and it was on a wild card, I'd rather have Visser between now and the end of the season than João Pedro. And then the forwards that are going to hurt you a little bit less. So Cunha, he's now back from his ban. Home to Leicester next game week, so everyone free hitting is probably going to be owning him next game week. If you're wildcarding this game week and not free hitting next game week, you may want to bring him in and he'll be 3rd on your bench probably this game week. He's all right, but if he does well, he's not going to hurt you, so you do not need to fear him. There's no need to fear Raul Jimenez either. He's only 5.3 million, so if you're wildcarding and you're buying him to be sitting on your bench this game week to save some money, that's all right. But I personally would not be buying Raul Jimenez. If you've got him, don't take a hit to take him out though. And he's not going to release much money, but he is going down in value. Beto, not popular. He may grow in popularity in a few weeks' time when Everton's fixtures turn. He's only 4.9. Vardy, nobody owns Vardy, but Leicester have some nice fixtures coming up. So people struggling with money may get Vardy in. If you've got Vardy and you've got no chips left, he's all right to keep just because you release his money. But home to Liverpool this game week, probably won't score, but if there's a penalty, he'll be the one who gets it. I might get Vardy toward the end of the season, but that's to do with sentiment and not sensible play. And then Cannon represents any 4.5 million forward who don't even play and just sits on your bench. We're now going to look at the benching order, starting with the goalkeepers. The way this works, the first keeper you see you've got goes on your bench, which means you play the other keeper. But I'm only considering the keepers that we've looked at in this system, and this is just a suggestion. You do whatever you like. So Fabianski, Ward, if you've got a goalkeeper that doesn't play, of course they're going to be on your bench. Areola is lowly owned. Home to Southampton could be a clean sheet, but Southampton are already relegated, got nothing to lose. Their fans would rather, I should think, they lose 5-2 than 1-0. So they're going to go for it. There will be lots of people on bench boost this game week that have got Areola, and that is a great, great second keeper to have. If Areola is your second keeper and you're not bench boosting, he's a very sensible choice. He's nice and cheap, and he plays. However, I think he's not worth playing if you've got another playing keeper. So Pope's quite popular because a lot of managers had him last game week, relatively a lot of managers, and they'll be forced to play him this week against Villa. He may get a clean sheet. Pickford home to Man City, probably not a clean sheet, but a chance to get some save points. He could come away with 3 points there. Flecken at home to Brighton. Sales very popular away to Spurs. Spurs, a bit hit and miss. They may score, but Forest defence is good and Sales is popular. Then we have the double game week keepers, which is Martinez, Henderson, and Reyes, the best choice for keeper this game week if you've got him. Regarding the other players, again, I'm going to run through them. The first player you see you've got, I suggest, is position 3 on your bench. Next one, position 2. Last one, position 1. But again, I'm only looking at the players in the system. So any 4.5 million forward that doesn't even play: Greaves, Faust, Harwood Bellis, Dibbling, Dango, Mikolenko, Mazraoui, Williams, Robinson, Vardy, Beto, Gordon, Enzo, Aït-Nouri, Byrne, Livramento, Raul Jimenez, Milenkovic, Kirkes, Konate, Virgil van Dijk, Chris Wood, Cunha, João Pedro, Semenyo, Palmer, Fernandez, Mbeumo, Murphy, Visser, Konza, Munoz, Bowen, Luis Diaz, Isak, Timber, Saliba, Gvardiol, Eze, Rodgers and Watkins. So yes, I am saying some single game week players like Isak, Luis Diaz, Bowen, I personally think they're worth playing above Muniz or Konza. That's just me. Like I said, this is a suggestion. Regarding captaincy, Saka. If Arsenal were chasing a title and Saka was fully fit, he would easily be the best captaincy choice this game week. He's possibly got the best potential to get the highest score this game week, but his minutes may well be managed. What if he only gets 100 minutes or even 90 minutes in total? There'll be a good number of managers will be captaining Saka though, and he is a good choice, and the captaincy I think is a bit open this game week. De Bruyne is a lot of fun. If you were playing this game just for fun and you didn't care about rank, I personally think De Bruyne would be the best one if you're following the football. But in reality, he's probably not going to be the best captaincy choice, but he would be the most fun. And then another double game weeker who's a midfielder, Sarr, you might want him as your vice captain really. He might do all right. He has got a double game week. Marmoush, I think, is going to be the most captained player this game week. He's going to be the safest choice. And if you don't captain him and he does well, he's obviously going to be hurting your rank. Mateta's another choice for a forward. If by chance you don't have Saka, De Bruyne and Marmoush, you may want to be going for Mateta. And then Salah, even though it's a single game week player, there will still be plenty of managers that choose to captain him. Away to Leicester, he could well get a couple of goals there, and he could outscore the other 5 on the screen. So any of these is your captain, any of these is your vice captain. I normally advise don't choose 2 from the same team in case the game gets postponed, but it's a double game week, so that doesn't apply. So if you wanted to captain Marmoush, vice De Bruyne, that would be okay. If you don't fancy any of these, then any of the green forwards or midfielders from the previous pages, they could be alright as well. As for the background picture, I put this together yesterday, which was April the 17th. And on that day in history, recent past, the British Museum bought the oldest book that still exists in Britain, which was the Gospel of St. John, which was found in the tomb of St. Cuthbert in about 1100, I think it was. And he was buried in the 7th century, I think it was. It was written in Latin. But anyway, here we have St. Cuthbert in front of Lindisfarne, Holy Island in the northeast, which is where he lived, around that area, reading from the Gospel. And we're around Easter, so it's a nice tie-in. We don't have any photographs of him. All we really know about him is that he liked to wear his old mule hat. There we have it, my thoughts for Double Game Week 33. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comments. I'll try and get to them before the deadline for sure. There's points to be had. There's going to be some players that disappoint. There'll be some that surprise. As always, there'll be a good number of single game week players that outscore the double game week players. All right, thank you very much for watching. Bye.